The global economy is headed into a slump. People who have followed my work for years think of me as an optimist, and usually I am, but the weight of evidence is very negative for the world economy. I'm Dr. Bill Connerly. I connect the dots between the economy and business. And in explaining what's going on with the world economy, I'm going to concentrate on monetary tightening around the world, Europe's energy crisis, and a variety of problems related to China. But at the end, I'll talk about what business leaders can do about it in terms of assessing their risk, contingency planning, and finding some upside opportunities. Monetary policy is tightening around the world. Those of you who are watching from the United States know that the Federal Reserve is pushing interest rates up and has communicated that it will continue to do so. But it's not just an American phenomenon. The European Central Bank has started tightening, Bank of Canada, Bank of England, and this list is just the major countries. There are many minor countries. So there's significant tightening going on, and that will cause a slowdown in economic activity all around the world. There are two large countries that are not tightening, Russia and, can you guess the other? China. But there will be ripple effects even on them and countries that are in neutral from the economic slowdown caused by the monetary tightening of those who do it. I'm not saying the monetary tightening is a mistake, but it started too late. And the economic consequences are harsher when tightening starts too late. The second reason why I'm concerned about the global economy is what's happening in Europe with energy. For over a decade, Europe has become more and more dependent on Russian natural gas for its energy. Many countries have closed coal-fired electric plants and nuclear power, and Russian natural gas was cheap and available. What could go wrong? Yeah, well, a lot has gone wrong. As a result of the Ukraine war and Russian sanctions on their own energy exports, we've seen wholesale prices for electricity skyrocket. This chart makes it hard to see the individual countries, but it plots each of the 10 largest economies in Europe and the wholesale electric price. The three countries with the highest electric prices are Germany, France, and Italy. Those are the three largest economies in Europe. So the electric prices will have a major impact, and especially on manufacturing activity. And we'll see perhaps rationing, companies closing their energy-intensive factories in Europe, and that will have ripple effects around the world. And we'll talk a little bit more about the business implications of this at the end. The third global economic issue that worries me is China. And I've got three areas of concern: their COVID policy, their general prioritization of political control over economic growth, and what's going to happen with Taiwan. I've written at length about this in a Forbes article I will link to below. The key thing, first of all, is that current COVID zero policy is not going to work, and I believe China will have periodic lockdowns of factories, of ports, of significant portions of cities for some years to come until the leadership is willing to lose face by admitting that they were wrong with this policy. And that leads us to the other issues, their prioritization of political control over economic growth. And this is a change in the last 10 years from the policies that led to fantastically strong growth in China. But the government believes they can micromanage various parts of the economy. They're exerting more control over the housing sector, the finance sector, the technology sector, and that is going to limit their growth. It will not trigger a recession in and of itself, except through a particularly important issue such as the COVID policy, but this effort to control the economy will slow growth. And the third area that worries me is Taiwan. Now, I don't know if the Taiwan issue is a problem for this year, 2022, or 2023, or 5 years from now, but sometime, I think in the next 5 years, China is going to try to consolidate control over what it thinks of as its territory, and that will mean that Taiwan reports to Beijing. Maybe there will be a puppet ruler, but that puppet will have been chosen by Beijing, and how that comes about will have massive economic consequences, probably. There are three scenarios. The most severe one is an invasion. That's low probability, but very high impact on the global economy if it happens. The next possibility is a blockade that also would probably lead to sanctions and severe economic impacts. And the third, which I think is most likely but not at all certain, is that they will pressure Taiwan to give in, and the threat of leaving Taiwan looking like Ukraine looks today, with many dead people, many wounded people, many homes destroyed, buildings destroyed, factories destroyed. If that threat is big enough, the Taiwanese people may feel like they don't want to resist. One way or another, I believe in the next 5 years, mainland China is going to take Taiwan under its control, and the way it does it could end up being very bloody for the global economy. You roll these three things together: current COVID policy, the attitude towards controlling the economy, and then the future conflict over Taiwan, and I believe China is going to be a portion of the reason the global economy goes into a slump. What can business leaders do about this coming economic slump around the world? First, I would recommend assessing each company's own risk. Global monetary tightening puts particular risk to those businesses in interest-sensitive industries: construction, business capital goods, car sales, and the like. The European energy problem puts risk on those who are doing business with European companies, especially manufacturers, and companies outside of Europe that are using European-made products will have to worry about supply chain issues. And then China, any business that's selling to China, to Taiwan, and maybe even nearby neighbors, should do contingency plans for an economic slump in China and conflict in China-Taiwan. So assess risk is the first step. The second step is to do contingency planning, and there's so many variables of how severe this will be. I'm not positive how severe it will be. It could be mild, could be very severe. So I would suggest a three-tiered approach where a company develops contingency plans for mild global downturn, moderate, and then a very severe global downturn. And if you need to learn more about business contingency planning, I suggest you look at my book, The Flexible Stance: Thriving in a Boom-Bust Economy. It's available on my website or on Amazon.com. After looking at a particular company's risk and contingency plans, it's time to think about the upside. Anytime there's a change, even if it's a recession, anytime there's a big change, there are opportunities. And those opportunities for growth and expansion will be captured by business leaders who are creative, forward-thinking, and have prepared themselves for opportunities that may arise. If you found this video useful, you may want to subscribe to my monthly newsletter. It's free, a 60-second graphical summary of what's happening in the economy. Thanks for watching.